wasn't it called the Cat's Cradle or the Cat?
That was the one next door. And
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the same ownership. I know way too much. I know way too much about pubs on Sunset Boulevard. But my office used to be right across the street in the Hustler store.
Yeah. Okay.
And the Elevation Fitness sign.
That's
you still see out there.
Yeah.
That was us.
Oh,
and
I see.
It was an amazing opportunity. And it was a really great building.
So funny.
Unfortunately, it was on Sunset. So around 4:00, just like my dad, I was in the bar.
Yeah.
And I got a lot done in that place. And a lot not done, but a lot done. But anyway, for those that are tuning in, we have Leslie and Brad from Profitable Pilates. And make sure I get things right. And you guys, how long have you guys been in the consulting part of the Pilates business?
So I think we can go a whole step back. I started teaching Pilates in 2008, and I got a gig at an Equinox, a high-end fitness facility. And as a new instructor, I was converting clients like crazy, like 100% conversion, meaning someone coming for a first-time session, they'd buy a package with me. And my boss said, "What are you doing?" So this is about early 2010. I got a job there late 2009. She said, "What are you doing?" And I kind of thought I was in trouble. Like, isn't that my job? Like, to get people to buy Pilates packages? And then she followed up with like, "People don't convert like this." So I actually sat there and observed, like, what are people doing on first time sessions? And I could see it at the studio I was renting space, and I could see it where I was working. And I could see what people were doing that was wrong, because I came from retail. I came from sales. I came from a business communications degree. And so I created my first business workshop in early 2010 for Pilates instructors on how to convert first-time clients. And then that's what took me traveling to studios around the world, because to me, there isn't competition. Every single teacher teaches differently, even if you're trained the same way. And so technically I've been coaching in Pilates since 2010. My book published in 2013. We officially started, thank goodness to my husband, because it needed a website and it needed all the technology. So we started doing more one-on-one consulting around the book released in like 2014, 2015. And then our being able to create it where it's a community and really scale it, that started around 2018.
Wow. And then how did you guys weather the pandemic?
This is really interesting because, so in 2019, we were on tour for our other brand, onlinepilatesclasses.com. We were doing Pilates pop-ups. And I had said to him, I really don't like how planned 2020 is. It's really packed. Agency, our Profitable Pilates coaching community is growing. I really want to dedicate time to it. And we are going to have so much travel. And
yeah, the travel started with her, those workshops that she was teaching about client conversion. It like just expanded from there. And all of a sudden she was getting hired outside of the studios that she was working for, or the company she was working for, and eventually internationally. And so her travel schedule was like, I got to be here for a weekend and there for a weekend and here for a weekend. And it was a lot. It was exciting at first. It was amazing. And then all of a sudden it was like, at one point she was in like Spain and then flew home and then flew back to London or something. Amsterdam.
It was like every 11
weird.
days I was on a plane.
Yeah.
And like any flight that was under 12 hours, I was like, great, I can handle this. But so to your question about the pandemic, because of my travels, because of my consulting, I have been teaching on Skype. That was a thing.
Yeah.
Been teaching on Skype for a long time, I think since 2015. And so we were actually flying home from Cambodia after leading our retreat, March 14th of 2020. Whoa. So we were flying into a shutdown Los Angeles, shutdown New York. And of course, I'm getting emails from all the different contracts I had around the world trying to cancel because, of course,
we were supposed to be in London the next week.
We were supposed to be in London the next weekend. And
I just see this trajectory of your business and I can't help but think about,
it was like everything we wanted. And also here's what, like you make a plan and then like God laughs, right? Like, so we had this plan that in April of 2020, I was actually going to take half of my clientele and give them to my renters. So they'd still come to the studio. They'd still come at the same time, but I was going to give them to my renters, just keep half because I was going to be traveling so much.
Right.
And I was growing Profitable Pilates and OPC. And so I was really excited about this plan. And here we are 2 weeks away from that plan. And we're in the air. And I look at him, I'm like, everyone's studio is going to shut down and no one knows how to teach online.
Right.
And
because we had already been, because Profitable Pilates, the community element of Profitable Pilates had already begun at that point. we had a small community, and we were hosting webinars on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
And she said, hey, maybe we should offer this to the entire Pilates community.
Yeah.
What if we basically taught them how to teach online?
Brilliant.
So, so we went home and literally woke
Talk
up the
about
next
a pivot. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like, my God, that word, I'm sure everyone like is a little bit on, but like we got home and literally woke up and I taught our entire agency community how to teach online. I was like, you do not discount your sessions. Your value is not in the walls that surround you. It is in what you give to people. And if you discount your sessions, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard to get your prices back up, and you're not going to be able to pay your bills, because even if your landlord is nice and you're not paying your rent now, you're going to pay it at some point. And as someone who comes from not having money consistently in my childhood and all that stuff, I was just like, no, everyone has to be able to pay their bills. And I really was extremely grateful for the experience I had, that I could share that with our community. And none of our members lost their studios. Not even our California businesses were shut down for 14 or 18 months. All of them survived.
Yeah, I think we had over 100 studios with us going into the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like in the coaching program. And
so
people were able to make it through.
So we taught them, and then we turned around and made a public version of it, and really helped people understand, because we had people going, I don't know how to do this. And I'm like, this is how you set your clients up for it. This is how you explain to them that this is not a 2-week thing. We're not shut down for 2 weeks. This is going to be a really long time. And the people moving their bodies are who are going to stay healthy and survive this. And you have to establish our value. And I think as Pilates instructors, we often get caught up in the aesthetics, because Pilates gets put into the fitness category of things. But if we actually can establish ourselves where we really are, which is in the longevity of someone's life, we can absolutely roll with any of the punches, including what's coming up. And so what happened is, we lost all of our contracts for 2020, every single one. We had to pay them all back.
Yeah, that was definitely scary. I mean, we landed back from Cambodia and then immediately had to refund tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And that was like,
okay. That says a lot about you guys, because I know for a fact, and you know for a fact, a lot of people just walked away.
Yeah, no,
sure.
We refunded. We've honored the contracts. It's part of, like, I think also every single Pilates instructor needs to have values, not just for themselves, but for their business, and like how you make decisions. So we refunded thousands of dollars. At the time, Stripe actually didn't take the fees on that.
Right.
They changed it. They changed it very quickly, but we got all of our refunds to everyone before we would have been charged the fees as well. So it didn't hit us extra, but we had bills to pay too. We had rent to pay. We had a studio rent to pay.
Sure.
And we had people on our team as well. But we had that virtual workshop that we did. And I was like, okay, that actually just bought us 2 months of runway. And then we did a couple workouts that we were able to look at, like, what can we do to buy us some time? And then because we had,
I think actually even shifted again. It was like, how can we had people in our membership already, and we were like, how can we serve them in a way that will benefit them and also benefit us? Because we have to make money right now. Yeah. Like, have to make money right now.
And you guys had the knowledge.
Yeah. Well, and I think we had a perfect, this is where I don't believe in luck, but I do believe in opportunity meeting preparedness, right? Because I had, at this point in 2020, I've been an employee, I've been a renter, I've been a studio owner, I've been teaching online, we had done launches, we've had products,
training programs, led retreats, sold teacher training programs.
There isn't anything I haven't done in this industry except for a franchise. Right. That's the only thing I haven't done. So I can actually sit there and work with anyone on their goals and a personalized strategic level. And because I had to shut down my studio as well, and we already had agency, I was able to divert 100% of my focus into helping all these studios. And so by May of 2020, we actually did double our community in growth, and that because all these studios realized, I actually do need coaching right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I'm doing. I think a lot of people have a little bit of luck. You put a Pilates sign up and you do, depending, like, you get a lot of clients walking in the door. So, but then what happens when you don't actually know how to weather the storms? What happens when
when there's nobody walking by because they can't? Or
your rates actually made you think you're making money, but now you're shut down for 3 months and you didn't have proper contracts that allowed you to say, oh, your membership is still being charged because we're offering these virtually. Like so many people weren't prepared for what was happening.
So many, more like none. You guys are talking about, you maintain the studios through that.
We maintain all
How
of our,
many studios closed? Do we have any idea how many studios closed during that time?
That's a really good
I don't have
question.
any
I don't know.
numbers.
You put that number up against the reality of what happened. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was a tsunami of closures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I ended up with PilatesStyle to begin with.
Yeah.
They walked away from it because there was no business,
yeah.
because there were no studios and people were closing.
Yeah.
And they read the writing on the wall and they walked away.
And like it's funny because
And you guys put new writing on the wall.
we
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those like one man's trash is another man's treasure kind of a thing. In the unfortunate instances of people having to close, what it did was actually flooded the market with used equipment.
Yep.
That then we were able to go back to the teachers and say, tell your clients to buy this,
Yes.
so that you have something to teach them on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And right now, these rates are never going to be better for used equipment.
100%.
Like, go get it. And so suddenly, like, that was the play for a lot of the people, you know, just so that they could teach
But I
virtually.
also think like, so the pendulum swings, right? So everything, no one could go out. And so everyone was forced to experience online. And we were coming off the plane. I had friends all over the world going, oh my gosh, Leslie, OPC, our online PilatesClasses.com, it's going to grow. No, it didn't. Actually, OPC lost members that first week of the pandemic because people were getting free workouts on Instagram because all these teachers were like, oh, I got to help people. And I get that, like, you love what you do and you want everyone to help you. But what happened is everybody was doing these free workouts on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And so then people weren't paying for it anywhere. And it devalued a lot of things.
Yeah, we literally had people email us say, I'm canceling my membership because I can get free content online right now.
So, which is fine. Like, that's totally fine. I don't like, some of them have come back and everything is good. But what also, after a couple weeks of it, people then had to be forced to try things online. And so my clients who never thought they would do online because they could take in person with me had to do it online. And they were like, oh, I love this. They bought equipment for themselves. They're like, I'm not going to the studio. I haven't got a parking ticket. My car hasn't been hit while it's parked. Like, you just keep teaching me on Zoom. I'll have my studio in my house. And so as we got out of the pandemic, yes, people went back in. We can see that today as we're talking, like, Pilates is so popular. People are loving in person, but there are still a lot of people who are loving online, or they're supplementing with it.
And we also have a lot of teachers who are like, actually love teaching virtually. I don't want to commute. I don't want to drive in the studio. I don't want to be around people who are sick. Like,
if you can build that kind of business, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
And I think what happened is, yes, we lost a lot of studios. And that really makes me sad. I also will say that, like, before the pandemic, I had been shouting from the rooftops to anyone who would listen that the industry wasn't charging enough because everyone was saying Pilates is too expensive, yet no teachers were making enough money. So how is something too expensive, but everyone's broke? Right. There's a problem. There's a disconnect. And so I think we lost a lot of studios because the margins just weren't there. And you do have to, when you own a studio, you owe it to the employees on your team and you owe it to your clients to create margins that allow you to ride any storm. Like, otherwise you're not going to anybody, right? So I think where we sit today is, like, the pendulum has kind of figured itself out, and there are people who take in person, who take online, who know what they want, and teachers really have a bit more opportunities. I think some people think that having an online membership is printing money. We can tell you it's not, but everything is work. But now I think depending on how you like to teach, there is an opportunity for you. You know, before the pandemic, it was all in person. During the pandemic, it was all online. And now you have a variety you can use. And I think that's really cool. Right.
Well, I also think it's a destination. It's like we're running out of things to do now. It's like you can do everything. You can order anything at home. You can buy anything at home. You know, it's like going to, like, a nice restaurant or a cool restaurant you like, going to a studio you like. I mean, I think it's one of the few destinations, I think, going to work out. It's like, it's like a thing to do. So it's like driving the clothing, all of that stuff.
I agree. We work together from home, and I have a Pilates studio at home. we go to a gym.
See,
We could have a gym at home. We have the money, we have the knowledge, we have all the things. We go to a gym because you need a third space. You need to change the scenery.
Right. It's one of the few destinations, going to gyms, going to studios, and Pilates studios are so unique. And to me, it's so instructor driven.
Yeah.
Like I have a classical Pilates instructor that I go to, and I actually go to Equinox.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's where, that's where I started. They have great studios.
Yeah. And so I really love like the environment and going there, and I'm into the whole neurological benefits. Like I come from that part of it. That's my big interest in it. And I know it's other things too, and it's other things to different people. Yeah. But to me, it's all about going and getting on that equipment and doing the proper breathing and all that stuff and just getting in the right space. I come out of there a completely different person.
Yeah.
So it's very much about going to that place with that instructor.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said instructor driven. You know, so obviously there's a couple of perspectives here, right? With the instructor, obviously you want to be able to build your community and have people be excited to come to your class. But from a studio owner, that actually can be risky. To have it betting only on the instructor to be bringing the people in.
Yep.
And when we coach a lot of people, we talk with them about how do you diversify the client's focus inside the studio so that they're not only attached to one teacher. Because what if that teacher doesn't come to work? What if there's an accident, or what if they quit?
Smart.
Right. And then now all of a sudden you've got like a third of your clients are only coming to see Joe, and Joe's no longer there. What do you do as a studio owner? You know, so it becomes that can be a liability in the long run, even though that instructor might be the one that's bringing all the people in. You know, you got to figure out a way to diversify that.
So you could see then a shift. I like that a lot. You see a shift from instructor driven to culture driven.
That's exactly it.
And it forces ownership of the practice back onto the client, because one of the things that happens a lot is, you know, I'm guilty of this too. When I got into yoga, I was very attached to my teacher. And when my teacher moved studios, I went with my teacher. It didn't matter where he went. When he went online, I went online. Right. And, but you know, especially when I was first starting, it took years for me to be like, really actually assessing my own body and thinking about my own practice. At first, I was just like, tell me what to do. Right. And it was me like learning, but effectively 100%. If he wasn't telling me what to do, guess what? I wasn't doing yoga at all. Right. And when you require your clients, hey, welcome to the studio, you know, here's how it works here. You're going to start, you know, come take class on Tuesdays with Joe, and then on Thursdays with Jane. Everybody here takes from at least 2 people, whatever, whether it's privates or group class or whatever. That allows them to say, oh, well, when I was working with Joe on Tuesday, we did these things. And now I'm working with Jane. Oh, we covered that stuff. I already know what I'm doing here, but I need to learn another thing. It forces the client to take ownership of their own practice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important, like if for the studio owners who are watching, too often studio owners see the teachers as potential liability versus something that they can leverage. And if you are creating culture, like you said, if you're actually creating a space where you understand what your teachers' values are and what their goals are, and then you, the studio owner, are figuring out, okay, how do those align with your goals as a studio? And if they don't, there's a disconnect. And I know it's hard to find good teachers out there, but you're better off waiting for someone else whose values and goals align with your studios. Then as a group, you elevate those teachers to elevate the clients. And too often studio owners are either too busy in the back office to connect with their teachers and the clients, so that if a teacher leaves, one, it's a shock to the studio owner. And then of course the clients are going with them. But if you, the studio owner, are invested, and this is where studio owners like gasp every time I say it, when I ran studios, I met with every teacher every month. Yeah, I taught 20 hours a week. That was also part of the only way I could make the money that I was making at the contract that I had. But I also met with those teachers 15 minutes. I was never surprised by engagements, vacations, sabbaticals, nothing. I could see it, right? And I knew what was going on. I could provide feedback to them. I could understand what they needed support on. And then I was constantly connecting eye contact with the customers, with the clients, and understand what their goals were, and celebrating, oh my God, I saw you do that exercise today. I know you've been working hard on that. Because this way, when I had to call them and say, hey, your teacher has left, but we've got this other teacher here, maybe they want to go try where their teacher is going, and that's fine. But here's the actual reality. Not everyone will go because not everyone likes the new commute or the new parking
Right.
or
People
the new
don't like
lighting.
change.
They don't like change.
So
Like,
they're frustrated already that the teacher's changing. But what do they not want to do? They don't want to change their routine.
yeah, and
all
especially
that stuff as
like
well.
so many things go into it. So where I think studio owners should be spending a bit more time, and where we work with a lot of studio owners, is like, first of all, your salary should not come, and that's where I took that from my own experience. Like, my salary should have included my teaching hours so that I could actually have spent more time in the community, as opposed to like, oh, I have to teach this much to make this much money.
To clarify that,
Yeah.
if you're a studio owner and you're only paying yourself based on the hours you're teaching, then you're setting yourself up to literally compete with your own teaching staff.
Yes.
Because who gets the client when the new person walks in the door? Oh, well, you're the boss. So,
Cherry picking.
right.
Or
Right.
you need money, so you're not giving, and then you're like, oh, no, teachers are leaving. Yeah, because you're not supporting them. Like, they also have to get their bills paid.
Interesting.
But if you are like, hey, I get paid my X amount every month, it doesn't matter if I'm teaching or not.
Yeah.
Now it changes that dynamic completely, and it allows you to actually set your teachers up with the clients coming in the door, right? So that they can have a full schedule and feel excited to be part of a team.
Grow your culture.
Yeah, it grows your culture, and it gives you the opportunity to engage with your clients, like Leslie was talking about.
And then if a teacher has to go on vacation, of course you step in, but like, now you're all part of the team, and you're not in competition. I think that's a really important thing. And so what I tend to see is studio owners like holding tight on everything. Like, this is mine, and seeing these. Well, they just leave. Oh, I gave them a raise and then they left.
Right.
Boy, I see that a lot.
It happens. And then you take it personally. First of all, it's very rarely personal when a teacher leaves your studio. It's meaning like it not having to do with you. If you actually do care, if you are truly meeting with them, if you are truly pouring into them, you're understanding, you have benefits, like you bring in a quarterly workshop, or you have some sort of bonuses, or maybe they can take an actual class every week from you. If you're pouring into them truly, if they leave, it's not because you didn't pour into them enough. It's because maybe after all of that, they realize, I actually want to be over here. Like, maybe you've empowered them. Everyone has a season for how long they're going to stay. But where I think studio owners lose it is they try to hold on to it too much.
Yep.
And then what happens is people are like teachers and clients, they can feel that.
Yeah, it's
Control.
weird.
And then they don't want to be
awkward,
there.
yeah.
It's a little
Yeah.
awkward. So
I've seen somebody set up cameras.
I have coached in my mentorship program. I have a lot of teachers like, well, they film me to make sure my class is different
where
every
they're
time.
watching the instructors.
And
it's
I was like,
that's
if you don't,
awful.
now, if you're filming because maybe you have like like people get a little more litigious and you want to prove like they weren't listening to the teacher, okay, fine. I think that's an interesting thing. But also, if you're filming to see if your staff is doing a good job, you don't have a good system. You don't have trust.
Yeah.
And good teachers don't stay where they don't feel like they're trusted and empowered.
Right.
Period. Like, people are like, oh, if I don't pay enough, they won't stay. I have seen teachers stay at places that pay 35% of what the service fee is, because there's health benefits, childcare. They get vacation time, sick pay, and they're trusted and they're empowered.
I mean, and even past that, they love being there.
Right.
They like the group, they like the clients, they like the
schedule. Like, there's
Yeah.
so much that goes into it. And I'm not saying underpay your teachers. I'm saying like charge enough so that everyone wins, right? Everyone can win, and you can put those things in there. But I think a lot of studio owners are like, I spent all this money and it has to come back. And it's like, yes, you did. And welcome to business. And there are decisions we've made that have made us a lot of money. And there's decisions made that have cost us a lot of money. And I'm so grateful for the team that we hired, and it's all risk. It's all part of it. But if you're really clear on why you're doing what you're doing, and then you are hiring people you trust and you are empowering them to be part of the impact you want to make on this world, it's unbelievable what happened. But the studios who don't trust their teachers, who are like just seeing numbers, I can tell the studios that are focused on just the numbers, right? Those teachers, even if they're making the max, and we have coached some of those teachers, they're making more than I would ever tell a studio owner to pay a teacher for a class. And they leave because they are not supported.
Yeah, or valued. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the biggest pains that Pilates studio owners experience? Like, what are some of the big issues you think maybe they deal with that maybe you hear a lot of times? I mean, you've already gotten into some of it.
Yeah, I think studio owners, the
there's always a push-pull between the teachers and the owners of who's bringing people into the studio.
Yeah.
Always a push-pull there.
If you want the teachers to bring clients into the studio and you want them to market, you have to pay them extra. Because to me, if I'm an employee somewhere, it's because I'm coming in and bringing my talent and you're bringing the customers to me.
Right.
Right. So then I show up and I do
Like think
the
about
best
it like
I can.
think about it like a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You wouldn't ask your barista to be bringing in coffee clients.
No, but they make the best. They like make the best art, and so people want to come on Saturdays because that's when Janessa's making the best art, right? And Janessa made my cat. Like trust me, I've seen this. My friend literally was like, we have to go to this coffee shop because so and so is working today, and he won the best art.
I know literally know who you're talking about.
So but so you hire teachers who can provide the results you're promising to people, but your job as a studio owner is to go get the clients. If you want, now your teachers should have a part in the retention and can even have a part in the conversion, but walking them in the door, that's studio owner marketing. And if you want to do it as a studio owner, it's hiring someone who can, it's getting help and support with that.
Or if you're like Leslie said, if you do expect your teachers to be bringing clients in, then they should be getting a referral fee for bringing them in the door.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if that was like a referral fee.
Oh my, totally. Sure. I've seen, we worked with studios who've done that where like you get paid X amount for clients that we get you and you get paid. Like a percentage of the first package
this much. Or, there's different ways to incentivize.
Yeah. In the fitness equipment industry, which is part of where I come from, we always did spiffs.
Sure.
So like, everybody would get like a certain upgrade or whatever they knew, and they would track them and keep up with them, and there's a place to log it,
Yeah. But
it's a funny term, but yeah. And we actually never hear it in the Pilates world, but yeah, an incentive for them to, because you could incentivize them for bringing them in the door and getting their intro pack. And then you could incentivize them for getting them to sign up for their first 10 pack.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need to continue to incentivize over and over and over again, but that's enough of an incentive for an instructor to be here's what's always so interesting to me as a third party who didn't work in a Pilates studio myself, but listening to Leslie talk about her experience with a huge corporation that had, hundreds and hundreds of Pilates teachers in their program. How did they get their team to grow the business? Is so different an approach than, hey, I want to open my own Pilates studio because of the corporate approach to it. So listening to her talk about, well, when I was the studio owner, when I was the manager of the studio, I was getting this rate, but then by being the regional manager, I was also getting this, bump. Then when I had hit my goals, I was getting a bonus. Yeah. Then when my team was doing this, I was doing this. And then I was selling the teacher training on the side. And then I would teach the teacher training on the side. So like by the end of her time there, literally she could have gotten paid a half a dozen different ways from the same company.
Yeah.
Inside the company. And so it's just interesting because we don't think about it like that as a smaller business owner usually.
I think this is really important. I've been talking as if we're talking to studio owners who have employees. If you want your employees to build their own business, they're going out and marketing. You cannot get mad when they realize how good they are at it and they want to open up their own thing. Okay. Can't, because you told them you got to go market yourself. You got to go get clients. You got to go do this. And guess what? Yeah. One day they could leave. And that doesn't mean you're bad, but you just have to understand like what parts of it do you want them to take ownership of? There's going to be someone who goes, wow, I'm so good at like me. I'm so good at converting clients.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my own private business. When we did the math of all the things, I had my own private business. So I worked at a studio. I rented a space at a studio where the studio owners were really smart. They're like, the more you rent here, the better your rent is. Great. Genius. Because if I rent at 3 different studios in town, that means they're losing potential rent, right? If I'm renting over here in West Hollywood, I'm renting over here in Santa Monica. So I rented from one studio in Westwood and I'm paying all this rent and just similar things can happen. That studio started to not treat me well, right? Not treat me well, started changing, making the rules different, changing different things, making it harder for us to do the things that we love, doing things that were helping build their business up. For example, like the YouTube videos I was doing, the marketing I was doing. And one day I just looked at how much rent was for a studio.
I asked her because
they drove you to it.
Well, it was an obvious decision at that point because we were about to go out of town for a couple weeks, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna I have to write this check for them. And I was like, wait, how much? You know,
Thousands of dollars in rent.
and I was like, and we're gone. Like, whoa, like if we doubled that, you know, we could just get our own space, you know, and we would have been hypothetically would have been there for the month. And so that was like the catalyst of like, oh, wow. And that wasn't a bad thing, you know, in the sense of it wasn't like the rates were too high.
No,
it was just a reality check for us to go, oh, she is teaching this much. We are paying this much. And not only that, we have the inclination, we have the desire to deal with signing a lease, finding a lease, all of the logistics of opening a space. It was like, we could do that. And we already have done stuff like that. So why not do that here in this case too?
And again, their rent was fine. Had they continued to support my goals, I probably wouldn't have taken the time to look at it.
Yeah, there was enough friction there that I was like,
spending $50,000 on equipment.
Yeah.
Was hard to do. It wasn't easy to do. No one was giving me a business loan.
Yep.
I had no bank would do. They're like, well, here's a bank credit card. And I was like, okay, so I can afford half of the bill on this credit card. And then I have 4 months for them to deliver where I have to come up with the other half. So I hustled my little heart out. But like, I think the through line for this is, if you want to be in this business for a really long time, take a look at how you're treating your team. Because your team has connections to all of the clients. And when I probably never would have left that rent. It was an easy gig. You guys, when I went on vacation, when I traveled, I owed them $0, right? So like zero. So when I opened my studio, that's how much friction was. I was like, oh, I'm going to pay a bill when I'm gone, you know, like, so, but you have to treat your teachers as if they're part of the goal you're trying to make, which means knowing what your goals are, knowing what your impact is you want to be, and telling them how they're part of that, whether they're true renters. And I always say true renters because in this industry, there's a lot of blurred lines about independent contractors or their employees. And when you do that well, you're unstoppable, you're sustainable, and you do build community. And yes, teachers will leave, and some clients might go with them, or might just quit altogether, but they do come back because they remember the community. They remember how they felt. You know, I take sessions with a friend of mine, and one of our mutual teacher's clients had quit when our mentor had quit teaching. And after 2 years, he's like, okay, I'm coming back. Like, it takes time, but you know what? You stay in touch. You have consistent newsletters and consistent outreach.
The follow-up.
And that's what people don't do. They're not consistent. They only email the community when there's something going. No, you email them all the time so they know who you are. You're top of mind. We have this, I used to have this one celebrity client who had my phone number. So did his assistant. And he would, he'd be in town for a few weeks. He'd be out of town for a few weeks. And he always responded to my newsletter. I'll be back on this date. And I'm like, wow, okay, I'll text you then. I'll text your assistant some options. But because I knew newsletters were so consistent, as soon as he got my news, I was like, oh, I'm going to be back. I was top of mind.
Are you guys Alex Hormozi fans?
I do follow him on Instagram. Yeah.
No, he always says this thing. He goes, if you're not getting results, he goes, it's your fault.
Oh,
and I love that. Yeah. And it's like I look at this stuff I'm doing and the things I'm working on. I'm like, it's totally my fault. I didn't make 50 phone calls. I didn't send out a newsletter. I didn't do this consistently. I didn't follow up with that person.
Yeah.
People don't, it's like we live in the real world where people don't do things unless they're kind of nudged or reminded.
People are overwhelmed. They are exhausted and overwhelmed. And just think about yourself and the things you've recently signed up for, right? Like, there's a trainer I recently hired. Brett's probably tired of hearing me how I hired her. I hired her only 3 months ago, but I followed her for over a year.
Wow.
Right? Over a year following her. And I was like, I don't know. My girlfriend was like, I'm going to sign up with her. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I have the time. I don't know. But she kept coming up in my feed. She is consistent, right? And she put out this content. I was like, I'm going to try this content out. And guess what? I got results, a little bit of results with her content, which is what things have. You have to educate, and people have to be able to get a win with you, right?
Yep.
And so then I was like, oh, I wonder what it'd be like if I actually hired her. What that would be like? Even from that thought, it was still 3 months later that I was like, oh, I got to sign up for that thing. But so you can't decide. We never decide when someone's going to say, now is the time I'm signing up, but you can be in control of how consistent you are with being in front of them.
Yep.
And yes, it's extra work, and yes, it's hard, but I promise you, if you don't have the business, if you're not making the money, whether you're an individual instructor working for yourself or your studio owner, if you don't have the money you want to be making, then you have to make the time.
Yep.
You have to make the time. But here's what happens. If you stay consistent, making the time and making the calls and going to the coffee shops, and I don't care if you're shy, like, or an introvert. I'm an introvert too. I will spend time by myself after this. Like, you owe it to the people that you believe you can help to get out there and tell people who you are and how you help them and what impact you're going to make.
That's a great way to look at it.
You owe it to them. And
Yep.
then guess what happens? You get a bite. And then that person comes in, and here's the thing, the best advice I ever got, because I got a lot of crappy advice when I first became a Pilates instructor. In fact, really advice that would have made me poor and homeless. But this one guy said, you will get your first client and you make them your best client. Your first client, you got to make them so obsessed with working out with you. And I did that. I got my first client. They were given to me by a studio owner I was renting space from. His teacher was leaving, so they gave me this couple. And I was so overwhelmed because it was 2 people over 60. She needed this. He needed this. I'm like, oh my God, they're not supposed to do all these things. I don't even know what to do. But I made them, they only want to come once a week.
So you were training them at the same time.
Train them at the same time.
That's hard.
Train at the same time. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
but I have to make them my best client. And I was like, oh, you guys only come once a week. You really should come twice a week because that's the way you're going to get benefits. So they're like, no, it's all we can afford. And I was like, okay. So I was going to see them the next week. And I was like, they said, oh, we're missing the next week. I said, oh, well, then you should come twice this week to make up for next week. And they're like, oh no. I'm like, well, you can afford, it's next week's session this week.
Right.
That way you don't miss your benefits. So they did it. And then they were gone. And then they came back and they're like, oh, I have these aches and pains. So I said, why don't we do 2 this week so we can catch you back up? And then all of a sudden, the husband who used to tell me all the time, I hate Pilates, she makes me come. After 6 weeks, he's like, so how much is a private session if I want to come by myself? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, are you taking clients because our friends want to come? So 2 months into teaching these people, I got their friends to come.
Yep.
And I did the same. You guys should be coming twice a week. Oh, we can't afford it. Okay, no problem. But being honest about the aches and pains that they had and how I can only do so much if I see you once a week. All of a sudden they're coming 2 times a week. They're sending their friends in. That was the best advice. And where I see people struggling is they do not go out and get that first client. And then when they let that first client be passive about their Pilates.
Yeah.
Yep.
You did not get into Pilates because you were passive. You were obsessed with it. Why were you obsessed with it? Was it the teacher? Was it the feeling? How can you make sure every single one of your clients experience in that way? And Daniel Pink said this. He said, if what you do takes people out of pain, you have a moral obligation to sell it to them. And that hit me. I remember where I was.
That's what I was thinking about a minute ago when you said that you have that obligation.
You have an
I've got things I'm
obligation.
working on. If I really believe that this is so good, I have an obligation to do it.
Yeah.
you know?
Because here's what happens. So you're quiet because you don't want to sell to people. You're not into sales. You're not a salesperson. You're shy, whatever. Okay. So then the person down the street who you're like, that's not Pilates, they sell it to them.
Yeah.
And they
look,
can't do what you can do.
You don't have to be a salesperson, right?
Mm-mm.
It's not about being a salesperson. What it is about understanding what they need.
Yep.
Right. And you're like, I talk about this a lot with people who are looking at our coaching program agency, and everyone always says, "Oh, I'm really shy or I'm introverted." And and I say, hey, you can sell Pilates without turning into the used car lot salesman person, a pushy, weird, awkward. That's not, nobody wants that. Like nobody should be doing that. That's weird, right? What you want to be is so convinced in what it is that you teach that you can't help but share excitedly, exuberantly that Pilates is the answer to the thing. What is the thing? You got to find that out. That's what you need to understand. What is it that they need? And then how is Pilates helping support them? And then guess what? You become their guide to their success in the problem that they have.
Passion is contagious.
Well, and honestly, when I was running 9 studios, some of the more senior teachers were like, why is so-and-so getting all the clients? And I'm like, because they might be a brand new teacher. They might not ever be as good as you, but they're so excited. They never stop talking about it. And you're so cynical. You don't ever talk about it. In fact, you just talk about why people don't get it, all this different stuff. They're not getting it. I think if you are burnt out, I see you. Like, it happens. Part of burnout is you don't have boundaries. You're not upholding a cancellation policy you told people to have.
That's a big one. I've heard you talk about that. That's a big one. Yeah.
We can go into that in a second. You don't have rates that support you to have time off, go invest in yourself, go to be sick, to like truly live the life you want to have. And so you become resentful.
I was going to say that's the first step to burnout is resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start feeling that resentment, then you should immediately acknowledge, oh, I'm on the path. The path is going in a direction that is not going to serve me or my clients, right? So how do we make adjustments in your schedule, in your rates, in your clients that you're teaching? Like we jokingly say, you know, who here has a client that you're like, oh God, here they come. This is going to be the one. After this, I'm going to need a break because they're like soul sucking.
Yeah.
Right? Why are we teaching people like that? We feel like we have to because we feel stuck, because we need them to pay us. We need that money, that check from that client. What if you didn't? What if you could attract the people who you actually want to teach? You know, think about your favorite client. What if you had 10 of your favorite clients?
Amazing.
How cool would your day be? It would be awesome, right? So how do we get those clients? You know?
And you totally can. And it doesn't mean we're going to tell you to fire people right now, but believe me, if you start owning your values and enforcing those policies, people will rise up to the occasions or they will leave. And I know it's scary. It's so scary, but I promise you, it opens up the door for someone who wants to come 2 times a week or 3 times a week, who will say, charge me, can't make it in. You know, all of my clients said, charge me, you know, and it's not because they wanted to pay for the late cancel, but because I don't see them as a dollar sign. I see that this is the service that they paid for. I'm providing that service. The only way that they can pay the energy back to me is through the money that they're paying, and that's
rapport you have with them. Yeah.
Correct. And so I think like it gets hard. Like we have people go, oh my God, they'll leave if I charge them this late cancel. Okay, how many? I want you to do some math. Just look at that client. How many times did they late cancel? You didn't charge them. We had a studio owner do that, and it was 2 months of rent.
Wow.
Right. 2 months of rent. And I was like, yeah, that's how much they owe you. Now how much you want that client? How much is that client actually worth? Because it sounds like that client's costing you a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, and so I had a client who was late all the time, and I had a client before her and after her. So I was just sitting there like working on some stuff, and she'd always apologize. And I was like, hey, here's the deal. I'm never going to give you that time back. So there's no need to apologize because you're not offending me, but you do have to ask yourself why you don't think you're worthy of the full session. Now, if you don't want the full session, that's on you. I'll just know you always be 15 minutes late.
Yeah.
But if you don't think why aren't you making the time to leave work early? We live in LA. Right. We know there's traffic. Why aren't you doing this? You guys, I've been working with her since 2009. I still teach her to this day. She literally texts me if she's going to be, I'm 5 minutes late, but I'm coming. She's so aware of like honoring her time because I had an honest conversation. I think sometimes we're afraid to just be, hey, the reason this cancellation policy exists is not because I want to take your money and not teach you. It's because I want you to show up for yourself when you don't think you have the time.
I think it's so important for people to hear that because I think people are trying to navigate their way through this and they don't really understand that you can create rules for yourself and you can create barriers. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite topics is this understanding of agreeable versus unagreeable. And I have always been an agreeable person. And, you know, if an agreeable person is working with people and they're charging them a certain rate and they do whatever just to keep them, they don't charge them for cancels, all this stuff, you know, whatever. 10 years later, they're still working with the same people. Okay, they've kept their clients good. But the person over here that's not agreeable is charging double. And in that same 10 years, the people that they have now are all people that agree to go along with what they have laid down. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're only hurting yourself.
Yeah. And I think, well, some people don't like confrontation, and I get that.
Wait, hold on. I want to, hold on. I'm wrapping my head around this. So that's interesting. It's almost as if you're saying in a relationship, generally one person is agreeable and one person is disagreeable or not, you know, unagreeable, whatever. And if you're the agreeable as the teacher, when you're in the authority position, then you're actually letting your client be the quote unquote disagreeable person. And you're actually giving them the power to control the relationship. Right. That's really curious to me.
Yeah.
And,
right. And this
like
is actually
being disagreeable isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, not
scenario.
at all. And I used to think it was a bad thing. And it actually is. It's an attribute that's different. Women are typically more agreeable than men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why women a lot of times make less money. in these job situations
Yeah.
is because they're more agreeable. They go along with it. Where guys, like I've got guys that work with me in some of my businesses where we do equipment and things like that. They'll hold me hostage
Yeah.
Mhm.
over the money,
Mhm.
and it's like, I may get rid of him, but he's good. I know he's good. I'm going to pay him what he wants just to get it done. It's going to be more. And this kind of goes back to some stuff you're talking about earlier. There's so much in this too with pain versus pleasure.
Yeah.
Like if something is more painful to do,
Sure.
it's hard to do it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's necessary. But I think you also have to kind of pull yourself away from it
Mm-hmm.
and kind of distance yourself from what's happening and make it a little bit more.
Yeah.
It is a business.
Well,
I tend to treat it like they're relationships. I really do.
Well,
So I end up with a lot of friends that some pay me good, some don't. But that's not really what it is.
Well, we are. If you're a Pilates instructor, you're in the service industry, but that doesn't mean you're of service to people.
Right.
You
That's a
provide
good
a
one.
service. You provide a service, but that service is provided based on these rules. And the only way I can operate in the most integrity for me is that we all understand these rules, and we're going to operate on these rules. And if we can't operate on those rules, it's not that you're a bad person. It's just that I'm not the right person for you. And that sucks because I would like to help you. But, I had a client who was my 6 a.m. client, and he would text me at like 5 a.m. Drank too much last night, not coming in. And he was like, go ahead and sleep in. I'm like, you think I'm sleeping in?
Right.
I got up earlier.
You're already up. I have one like that.
I'm already up. I'm
Yeah.
doing my run. And now I'm pissed because I could have slept in. So I changed it. After 2 of those things, I said, here's the deal. I love you. I think you're really awesome. I enjoy the work we're doing together. I have to change your client agreement. If you are drinking the night before and you do not text me the night before, you are not being charged 1 time. You're being charged 2 times.
Ooh, good for you.
Because you could tell me at midnight. You could tell me at 10 p.m.
Right.
You know you're going to be hungover at 10 p.m. So you could tell me then. Guess what? Started getting texts at 9:30 at night. Out with clients.
Good
can't
for
come.
you.
So
also, I think it was like, hey, I'm not going to be there, but my wife's going to take my spot instead.
Fine. That's great. I used to let people, but so there can be things, but here's the deal. I understand not wanting to be direct. It feels weird. It feels like, oh my gosh, especially if you have been letting it slide, you have to understand we got on this topic because of burnout.
Yeah.
You're zero good to anybody burnt out. And this industry, I think, lost a ton of teachers during the pandemic, not just because studios closed, but because they just didn't have it in them to fight one more time. Because they had, for so many years, felt like they've been taken advantage of, clients calling sick, and then during the pandemic, people were like, oh, do I have to be the late cancel? Because I might have COVID. I don't want to come in. And I'm like, it's called the participating in life. Like it's the cost of participating in the community and society. And yes, you do have to pay that late cancel. Thank you for not coming in and spreading to people. Like we have to understand we all are participating in the society together, and how to participate in the society that you're coming to my space. These are the rules. And we all have these. And if you can figure that out in your business, you will also figure out in your life.
Yeah.
I think where a lot of people struggle is that they let people decide what the rules are for them.
Yep.
And then they wonder why they're
that's the
tired.
agreeable, disagreeable.
Yeah.
It goes back to,
This is so great. I love this.
Yeah, me too. It's a clever concept. And I think, what we're kind of dancing around without ever saying the word is boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of the times, when we're coaching people, I'm not good at boundaries. And when I hear someone say that, what it tells me is that they don't believe in themselves enough, right?
Yeah.
And to have made a concrete decision that these are my quote unquote rules that we were just saying, or boundaries, like this is how I want to be treated. Why? Because I know my value. I know my worth. I know, it comes down. It's so interesting how it comes down to belief. When you believe in yourself, when you know without a shadow of a doubt that what you are offering is going to change their life in the long run, that they're not going to have to do a knee surgery or a hip replacement or whatever, because they're investing in themselves now. And when you know how you're impacting their future, it's going to give you the belief in yourself to be able to say, hey, the agreement that we had was that you're not going to late cancel within 24 hours and you're breaking that agreement. So this is the rule, is you're going to pay for the session.
This is such an important conversation to have. And this
Yeah.
is where I think you guys really stand out, is people need to hear this stuff. And nobody's, I don't, I mean, I've heard little bits and pieces here and there. Maybe it's policy in some gyms or things like that. But for people that are independent and own their own businesses and own their own studios, it's so important for them to have an operating plan, like an operating system that they employ. And you guys kind of give them permission to do that.
Yeah.
Because you guys, it all makes sense. These are all true things. And you're giving them tools they can use to actually employ it.
Yeah.
This is what people need. Because if they do the numbers, like you just said, and they found out how much they're losing.
Yeah.
And how much they're suffering because they're not standing up for what they're really offering people.
Yeah.
It would be bewildering to them. I mean, you can just imagine how much money.
I think it's also comes down to another thing, which is boundaries, but also it's like self-love.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like too many teachers get into this because they love Pilates and then they don't do Pilates anymore because they say yes so much that they have no time. They're exhausted, right? And so then they have this dissonance. It's almost hard for them to believe that what they do helps people because it's no longer helping them. They're exhausted, they're tired, and they're telling people to come 3 times a week, but then they also are inside knowing, I don't even do Pilates 3 times a week. And so I really think, going back to boundaries, one of the things that I'm really big on when we coach people is like, your ideal schedule, you come first, even if you're a mom.
Yep.
Even if you're a partner, and like your sleep, when you wake, your Pilates practice, your movement practice, all that stuff has to come first. And maybe it's not as long as you want it to be because you have other priorities that are in there and you have young kids. That's fine. But I promise you, you're zero good to anybody, exhausted and burnt out. Mm-hmm. And when you love yourself and you believe in what you do so much, all of these things we're talking about do become easier. But I think a lot of people have the first thing they actually have to do to get to this point is make sure that their schedule is protected in a way that allows them to get back to why they're doing this in the first place. And
Amen to that.
A lot of them have forgotten.
Forgive me. What is the name of your book?
My book?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very easy. Profitable Pilates, everything but the exercises.
and where do they find it?
You can find it on Amazon. You get a paperback. It's got a really cool cover. And there's also like little QR codes you can scan, or you can get the ebook on our website.
Okay.
And the first couple of chapters are really helpful if you're brand new or thinking becoming a teacher. I actually discuss the questions you should be asking yourself before you pick a program. I think a lot, and now more than ever, I wish my book was being found before people paid for programs, because today with the popularity of Pilates, now there's all this Pilates inspired stuff, and people aren't realizing that the certifications that they're getting, well, I should actually use the right word, the certificate that you're getting, because no one can certify you.
It's not a certification.
Who you paid for, just like Harvard Law can't make lawyers. They actually get a JD and they have to go take the bar exam. That's the same thing in the Pilates industry. It's the same thing in every industry. A third party person certifies you.
Good info.
Someone can give you a certificate. The problem is that since we're an unregulated industry, nobody is actually paying attention to, a lot of people are selling you on a training program and then you can't teach it anywhere else but their studios. I have a huge problem with that. You should be able to teach anywhere in the world based on what you learn. And if you cannot, that is not the right program for you, because you're already going to have to do another training, but I don't want you to have to start at the very beginning, right? Like a whole new thing. So the first couple of chapters really help you understand like what a Pilates teacher is, how to pick a program, questions to ask. I am a classical teacher. Obviously, I'm very lucky of who I've been trained by. I actually do not care which programs you choose. I care that you know why you chose them, and I care that you like the Pilates you're going to learn, because if you don't and you're just trying to pick something that you can afford or that's close by, you are going to be frustrated, and then it's going to be harder for you to believe in yourself and the things we're talking about. Then the other chapters actually discuss all the things you can do as a teacher. They discuss ways to figure out your rates. They discuss information on your schedule, continuing education,
marketing. Yeah.
Marketing.
So a little bit of history in there.
It's a little 101 on a lot
all
of things.
All the stuff that nobody teaches in a certification.
They don't.
Yeah. and no slight against the certification. There's not time for that when you're trying to learn hundreds of exercises.
I mean, the reality is like the people who studied with Joe studied for years with him and then became teachers. That's became a teacher. Years, right? Apprenticeships used to be years long.
Yep.
But now people need to get paid. I was one of those people. Like back in, I think my program was almost $8,000 in 2007, right? Like that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, and I was making $45,000 a year living in LA. So, I mean, I needed to get through my program as quickly as possible. So I don't slight those training programs, but I do think that, you know, where I feel like we could be all doing better in this industry is a lot of studios are teaching people how to be quick teachers for them and not necessarily empowering the teachers to be amazing teachers, right? And then what happens is if they do not feel loved and they do not feel supported, then they are going to go and look at other places where that's happening. And then unfortunately, they have to kind of start over. They feel like they have to reinvest. And so I think there's a way to still make teachers quickly, but also give them all the tools they need so that they aren't necessarily running off to somewhere else right away, that they feel like they have a place to call home. Like my first training program was really, really great, but I couldn't wait to get out of that studio. Did not feel supported. I did not feel trusted. I did not feel empowered, so I went to a place where I did. I stayed there longer than I probably should have because of how they made me feel.
And I'm sure the people taken from them did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They kept coming back because of that culture, that same thing. All right. Well, guys, this has been fantastic. I feel
like we just got to the iceberg,
I know. Hey, I've got a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to get into. Like, I feel like Equinox should put people into Pilates first when they come in. I think they should go there first.
Oh, I know. Well,
yeah, I think they should go in there first, learn more about their body before they put them out on the floor with the other trainers.
I think a lot of different locations.
And that's from a trainer.
Yeah. A lot of trainers used to send me people, and I think that I think there's a lot of people who want to do that. And I think people are starting to figure that out.
Yeah.
Where I think Pilates teachers could make themselves feel a little bit more approachable and have a bit more fun is keep people moving. Jay Grimes always told me, he's like, the Pilates principles are really great, but the one that's missing is move. And a lot of Pilates instructors get really obsessed with making sure everyone's perfect. But really, Joe didn't do that. He got you moving. And if you can get people moving sooner, and safety first, absolutely, but it's going to be a little ugly, and that's okay. Like, ugly doesn't mean unsafe, right? But if you can get them moving, they will want to do Pilates before training or in addition to. Yeah. But what do trainers do? Squat. Right away, you're moving, right? They're not going, oh, that pinky toe keeps turning out. Like, they're looking at it and they're like, okay, what does that mean? But so I think as Pilates instructors, there's got to be a balance of moving people so that they can feel like they're being successful, and then showing them how what Pilates does improves everything that they're doing. So let's get yes, I'm obsessed with Pilates, but we don't need to sell Pilates people. We need to sell what Pilates gives them.
I also think that Pilates instructors should get to know trainers that don't do Pilates.
Yeah.
And because they become this incredible referral source. Because did you hear there's somebody that popped up online, actually contacted her about this comment. It was really amazing. She said she worked in a private studio where there were trainers and then there were Pilates instructors. And she did a trade-off with the trainer for a session. And that trainer started sending clients to her. Mm-hmm. And it became so many that she goes to the trainer. She goes, aren't you afraid that I'm going to take your clients? And he goes, no. He goes, you're doing the hard work for me. Mm-hmm. You're getting them connected to themselves, and it makes my job so much easier. And I think this is the next level of what we're going to see, because I hear more and more trainers. I just heard a guy the other day. He said, and we have this conversation, and he does Pilates too. He takes it, but he doesn't teach it. He says, every time I get a client who's done Pilates first, and it doesn't work the other way around, he goes, they are so well connected to themselves and so easy to train. It makes my job so much easier. Yeah. And that is 100% true.
I mean, well, I love this advice. And I just say, how I got most of my clients when I was working at a gym was because I worked out with the trainer, and the trainer worked out with me. So people saw the Pilates girl out on the weight floor. People saw the trainer in the Pilates studio, and they're like, oh, you do both. And yes, it's so true. And also, I think people who can invest in one-on-one training, maybe they don't have the biggest budgets, but they already are buying into investing in themselves.
Yep.
And so it's so much easier to go, and this is something you do in addition to things, because it's going to get you better results, than getting someone who's never invested in themselves before. That's a really hard leap to go. Remember that whole thing, couch to a 5K? That's a really easy thing for someone to do because it doesn't cost anything. But to get someone from the couch to a reformer, it's a big investment. Because it's money and it's time. And I don't everyone likes to say Pilates is expensive. Yeah, we are space hogs. You can only have so many reformers in a studio, and each reformer costs about $4,000, $5,000. It's expensive. Becoming a Pilates student is expensive. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have ways to make Pilates accessible. We can, especially if we build it into the pricing, so that we can actually make it accessible for the people who need that. But we also have to go where the people are. And this is where Pilates instructors miss it all the time. They're waiting for the people to come to them. You gotta go. My business was not built and has never been built on me waiting for someone to Google me.
But I think that here's where I think, you know, they have the greatest opportunity right now that they've ever had because everybody knows the benefits of Pilates. So many people think about it and so many people are aware of it. If they just started the conversation, they would be surprised
You know
how many
what they're
people are
gonna
going to go,
tell you?
I always wanted to try that.
Here's
If
their
they don't have that access point. Now they do.
Here's their objection
Be the
right
access
now.
point.
They're like, oh, well, they want the toned arms and they want the athletic reformer, and I don't do that. And what I would say is, great. When they call for that, you tell them why that's not real and
That's
what you
your
can do for them.
opportunity.
That they called you. Doesn't mean you have to change how you teach. In fact, you say, oh my God, I'm so glad you called. Here's why we make you do 5 privates before you're in a class at our studio. Here's what that provides for you. Here's how we're different. Oh, when you see those words, I just want you to know that they're kind of they're using their marketing words to get you to come in, but this is what real Pilates is. I want you to come in and do it. You can villainize people without saying their names.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, you can say
that's
they're
your
playing
access
on
point.
insecurities.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we were just talking about this the other day. You know, if you walk into a restaurant and you're like, oh, do you have a Pepsi? And they're like, oh no, we only have Coke. It's not like, what? Oh, I'm out of here. You know, like, okay, you know, what's the value? You know, but you should try it. You know, like,
well, also, the
they're going to sell it.
The
to
conversation we also had
But
was,
this is a fountain Pepsi.
but also, Pepsi is not going, okay, well, here's how we can be like Coke.
Right.
They don't do that.
No.
Pepsi's always like, this is how we're Pepsi, right? And Pilates instructors today, what I'm seeing, and they're getting, and I would be frustrated too, but I'm sad for you. If you feel like you have to conform to what you think people want, one, you will not last in this industry, period. You will burn out. You'll be exhausted. You will have so much imposter syndrome because you are in dissonance with yourself. But two, just because that's what they're asking for doesn't mean that you have to be it or that they even want it. It's what they're told to want.
Right.
You know, I was a Pilates instructor in LA for 14 years. So do you think people came to me every day for weight loss? Of course they did. But what did I tell them? Here's what I can do with Pilates and here's what I can't do with only Pilates. So here's what I commit to with you, which is if you are consistent 3 to 4 times a week, we are going to do a full body workout. You are going to have mobility, flexibility, and we are going to increase your metabolism because of the type of workout this is. But without you working with a nutritionist about making sure what your fuel needs to be, without you making sure your hormones are in check, without you getting honest about why you are on this journey that you're on, this alone is going to do nothing.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. People like honesty.
Yeah.
I did not lose a single person who was on a weight loss journey. They all were like, whoa, someone is being honest with me. And guess what? Most of them did. Stopped critiquing their bodies. In fact, the weight loss journey became less of a thing. And it became more about, whoa, look how strong I am. Wow, look how tall I am. Look how good I feel. Oh my God, I'm 45 and I feel better than when I was 40, right? So I think where we have to, as Pilates instructors, have a little bit of gumption is like, own what you're great at. And yes, the marketing, the media sucks right now. Like I got real pissed the other day about Pilates arms and like what a Pilates body should look like, but use that to define like what Pilates really is and differentiate and educate people. And I promise you, your business will thrive and
Amen
you will
to that.
love it.
Yeah. Cover of PilatesStyle magazine, big article, you know, should you embrace reformer classes? And it is posed as a question, but we describe it as this is your opportunity to really teach somebody the real true benefits of Pilates.
Yeah.
Use that as the opportunity to speak with these people.
Yeah.
This is the greatest opportunity that Pilates instructors have ever had right now. Unbelievable. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been great.
This is so fun.
Yeah,
we'll have to come back and do another because
100%.
I think there's a part 2 in here.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Look at this dog.
Look at that.
Well, before we go, come connect with us. You know, Les and I want to meet you.
Yeah.
Each and every one of you. You know, our highest level goal with Profitable Pilates is we believe that Pilates makes better humans. It makes better
100%.
people, right? So more bodies doing Pilates. We also acknowledge that not everyone is going to like us, but you have more reach in your community than we ever will. So if we can empower you to be better at what you want to do, which is teach, right? Then that is also helping our mission of changing the world through Pilates. So come say hi, come find us online and you know, we love meeting new people.
I just want to highlight what you're doing here with PilatesStyle again, because I think it's really important is like having the hard conversations and talking about what does the industry need and how can we rise to this moment and how can we rise to this occasion, and giving this community a place where they can learn from others. It's, you know, on a different modality than just like social media, which can be a dumpster fire. So I really appreciate that you're bringing this back and you're bringing these conversations in a different medium, because I think that's what people need. So thank you.
And it's a reason why you guys are the second podcast ever on PilatesStyle in this adventure. I've been watching you guys for a while, and I would say to people out there, don't go it alone. You have to have a plan, and you have to have a structured plan, and you have to stick to that plan. And if you do it right, you know, you can have a really good experience with this and do really well.
Yeah.
Don't make it hard on yourself.
No.
Get some help.
Well, and just like Pilates gets better with consistency, like you said, like being consistent in your business is one of the best things you could do for yourself.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was super fun.